mouse because he couldn't figure out how to use technology. Are we live, Tony?
Yeah,
We're live.
You told me to go live.
Okay, guys.
We are live.
We're live. This time we got the right video going for the right guest. Would you like to put on your headphones, Miriam? You don't have to.
Yeah, sure.
They're optional.
They're optional.
You don't want to mess up that hair.
I have to wear them because my Tony, can you turn down your volume a little bit? You're loud.
Let's see if I can focus better or worse with these.
Is that better?
Yeah, it's a little bit better. Yeah.
All right.
How's that sound?
I can hear you.
Can you hear me? I mean, you don't have to wear yours. You look like Princess Leia with your earmuffs.
Yeah.
So we have Miriam Camero, Quiet Minds LLC. And Miriam's going to tell us a little bit about what she does, how she makes a living, the people she helps. And so I'm curious because I know what a life coach is. I know, but what's the, you're a faith and spiritual like life coach, right?
Yes.
So there's a little bit of a difference between like a regular, or is there not? Is it kind of one and the same?
It's very similar.
Okay.
But I like to keep that door open for people who want to start from that point, from that perspective. Gotcha.
Hello.
Now you're
just messing with me.
I'm just messing with you. In case you haven't noticed, guys, Miriam's one of my funnest guests to have on here.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, you're fun. You're fun. You're a lot of fun. You got a good attitude. You're down. You just go with the flow.
Go with it.
I guess you got to in your industry, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Picking up on holding a safe space. Essentially, that's the basis of life coaching. So going back to your question, what's the difference between a life coach and then a faith and spiritual life coach? Is that, well, we start at the soul. That's where everything starts. That's before even the mindset. It starts at the heart of things. It starts in the feelings. It starts in the experiencing life from within.
Okay.
A life coach, usually, and from what I've experienced, you can go into the faith, you can go into spirituality, you can go from that perspective. But for the most part, what I've seen is that the energy is just different. It's not so much of a listening, helping the client listen in to themselves and their inner wisdom, but more, so it'll come like, you want a life coach. What is your goal? Okay. You want to lose weight, or you want to, you want to become the CEO of something, or
I want a better relationship with my kids.
A better relationship with your kids. Okay. Then I will help you with that specifically.
Okay.
So then you have marriage life coaches, parenting life coaches, career life coaches, and all the above, right? But when you start at the soul, you start with the values, you start with what your purpose is. And then you can decide what areas you want to work in. And for me and my clients, usually people will come to me saying, I need help with X, Y, and Z. But by the end of, I'd say, the first session, it goes so deep, so much deeper than just this goal. It's much more fundamental, essential truths, essentially. And that's why faith and spirituality, we are able to come from all different faiths and all different spirituality backgrounds, because we're coming together on what we all have in common, right? What brings us all together, our humanity, and going from there.
So I've always wondered, because I've imagined it being, and I always make weird connections to things for my own brain to like understand it. When I have a sore neck and I go to a chiropractor, I'm like, oh, my neck hurts right here. And then he's like, down here in my hips. And he's like, the pain, this is where you think your pain is. This is what you think you want to work on. But really, I can see your movements down here in your hips. So when you start talking to people about, like you said, they come to you like, today, I want to get help with, not being so depressed all the time. And what are you depressed about? And they start to give you some reasons. But then week 1, week 2, week 3, they start to find there's a whole other layer of things that they didn't even know they needed to work on.
Right.
Isn't that hard sometimes? Because when somebody says, oh, I don't need any help with things, like, because they don't know, once they start peeling back the layers, that the root of the problem is sometimes so hidden from their own understanding.
It's true. And that is a lot on, self-confidence and safety, and sometimes desperation.
Right.
A lot of times people come to me when they've hit a point where they're saying, I don't want to have to go and get on medication for my depression. I don't want to have to do these things, or they're just simply not ready to take those steps. And they're coming to me with, hey, this is where I'm at right now. This is where I want to be, or I don't even know where I want to be. I just know that I don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. And we go from there, just really unpacking what's inside, what's really going on, what beliefs do we have that are really not supportive, what mindsets, what mental pathways have we established, what reactions are we in, and cycles that we can, there's actually a better way of doing this.
Do you find there's a lot of like absolute people come with a lot of absolute mindset where say alcoholics, an alcoholic, you know, you tell them, well, I don't, AA doesn't work. I've tried that. It doesn't work. It's all bullshit. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
And like how you just kind of said, when you're not ready to do something, you know, or how many times when you were a child, when you would do something wrong and your mom would say, you know, you're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to do this. Mm-hmm. And then you hear it from a stranger and it's like the first time you've ever heard it.
Yeah.
You know, it's when things resonate. Do you find people come to you? Are they looking sometimes for like a magic bullet where you have to kind of set some expectations?
No, actually, I usually do set some realistic expectations. For example, if I make a suggestion, and usually it's not like a suggestion like you should do this. It's more like, why don't we try this perspective? For the most part, I'll say it's okay if you have hesitation. It's okay if you're afraid to take this step. It's okay. All these different things that are come up, because what people tend to do is they expect it to be easy because they think, oh, well, if this person can do it, so can I, and it's going to be easy. Everybody's completely different. And so I try to make that very clear as soon as we get started, just based on what it is that the person wants and where they want to go.
Do you find you might have 20 different people come to you with 20 different wants, but once you get, let's say 6 months in with those 20 different people, it really starts to become, almost like a similar desire that they were, you know, I want a more peaceful life. I want this and I want that. And then when you start looking at their life and how they're living their lifestyles, they're going out partying a lot. They're drinking every night. Is it hard for people to make some of the changes that are really necessary to create the real change that is sustainable?
Well, first, usually those things come out within the first 4 sessions, and those commonalities, that the humanity aspect that all of us are experiencing, that comes out very quickly. And I think it has a lot to do with the safety of life coaching. It's not a judgmental space, and the progression, the growth from that point, it depends on everybody. Everybody's different, and we all have different filters, barriers, hesitations, and beliefs surrounding just one thing. And so what angles we're going to go through each one is going to be different for everybody. And so the results are going to be different as far as time-wise.
I imagine there's a lot of trying to help people understand how important it is to challenge your current belief system, because beliefs kind of create almost a vision or an expectation that we've manifested this. Oh, I'm never going to achieve this because I grew up poor, or I'm never going to be good because no one's ever loved me the way I should be loved. Right. You know, so we have these beliefs that we're not valuable enough. Mm-hmm. And telling ourselves that sometimes almost makes it easier, because let's say you were F up your entire life. Mm-hmm. And you've always been the black sheep of your family. Mm-hmm. And you start to do better, but people are kind of waiting for you to fall back because it's early on. Mm-hmm. And then when you do fall back, everyone's like, see, I told you so. And it's like, that's so hard for some people to accept, that they'd rather just maintain the black sheep because they don't have to, nobody expects anything from them.
Yes.
Is there truth to that?
Yes, absolutely. And it goes back to the self-confidence aspect. What life coaching can do is get you away from being dependent upon others to give you self-confidence, to give you acknowledgments, to give you awareness, and learning how to do that for yourself, giving yourself the compassion that you need when you do fail. When everybody else around you is telling you, I told you so, and this is exactly what I thought was going to happen, you can say, yeah, that might be true. And you might have some wisdom with that because, you know, This is a habitual thing, but I know I'm trying my best and I'm going to continue to go forward and push forward. It's so much more powerful when you're able to do that for yourself than if you're waiting for everyone else to do that for you.
And by the time you achieve to this new unlocked realm of your world, you probably don't even realize it anymore that you become this new person.
Yeah.
Until you'll see some of your old actions or old behaviors displayed by somebody else. Yeah. And you want to go shake them, and you want to go, you know what? It took me this journey to get here. That's why I always feel you could have the worst of people. Like, I mean, it could be an animal abuser, which is a horrible thing, but they could be better tomorrow than they are today. Right. So it's like, just be a little bit better today than you were yesterday. And how can you do something different tomorrow that you didn't do today? Getting people to see that is probably the skill set that you have. So I'm going into that. Is there a difference? So a faith, spiritual life coach, just so people that are watching don't get it confused, that's not the same thing as like a Christian life coach. This isn't a religion based faith, correct?
Correct. Well, it's whatever the client brings.
Okay.
It's the worldview that the client brings. And I'm actually going to be doing a talk over at Unity Spiritual Life Center here in Yakima in a couple weeks on the 25th, and doing research. And it's based on prayer. The talk is about prayer and developing yourself and your own personalized prayer. Looking at all the different religions, I mean, the main ones, I can't read about every single one.
Right.
But looking at all the biggest ones that have influenced the world, they all say the same things. Right. There's just a different how. Maybe a different why, maybe, but for the most part, it starts with a basic, simple truth. And so when a client comes to me who's Jewish,
right,
or who's Christian, who's Muslim, who's Buddhist, the Buddhists, they don't believe in a particular deity. It's more of universe, but all of it is a benevolent God, benevolent universe who, when you speak out truth, when you speak out your desires, when you speak out what you want in your life and you want to see, it takes effect. It sticks. And working from their perspective, using their terminology, it makes the connection so much closer, and they're able to express themselves in their terms. And that's what really faith and spiritual life coaching is. The client brings their perspective and we work within that realm.
Is there ever times where you have to step in and kind of bring somebody down to a reality where individuals that think they have it all figured out already almost try to say, yeah, I know where you're going with this. I know where you're going with this. And I imagine yours is probably different than what an average, like somebody that advertises as just a normal, I don't want to use the word normal because what's normal, but when I see regular life coaches versus a spiritual life coach, it seems like yours is a little more warm and welcoming, because it feels, I picture we're on the beach and we're just kind of like talking about, you're just having an organic conversation with somebody, kind of guiding them through a way to express themselves, to where all of a sudden, like, the matrix starts to open up for them.
Yeah.
And you're like, peace, have a good day.
Yeah.
And you float off into the sunset.
Yes. Yeah. It's just having that heart-to-heart conversation that, man, all of us need. We just to sit back and process something that really ticked us off earlier in the day, or really threw us for a loop earlier this week, even earlier this year, just being able to process that with somebody, to say, yeah, what about that ticked you off? What about that threw you for a loop? Oh, well, I just know it did, but I didn't think about dissecting it further and looking at, well, it was because X, Y, and Z. And then that leads you down a whole nother path of, oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that about myself, or I didn't realize that about myself.
Do you provide your clients with like tools? Like, I'm sure every industry has different names for them, but we use them like RSAs, or rational self-analysis. you come to me and tell me that you're struggling with, people are always testing your limits. And well, give me an example. I was walking to the gym and this guy bumped my shoulder really, really hard. And I looked back at him and he just ignored me. And man, I wanted to go up and smash him in the face and ask you, well, why did you want to go smash him in the face? Man, because he did it. He was trying me, he was testing me. And when you challenge that belief, do you know he was trying to? Do you know he was testing you? Maybe he was in a hurry, he bumped you and didn't even know it. And you get people to realize that there is a different possibility and then focusing on a consequence. Like, let's say you go confront this guy and you go smash him in the face and guy pulls out a gun and shoots you and you end up in jail or whatever, versus maybe he didn't do it on purpose and you go about your day. It seems like when you can get people to challenge those absolute beliefs that creates an outcome that they manifested, they can digress themselves and kind of find a center of peace that it's not that worth it. I'm going to go home and eat cereal now. Is that like,
Yes.
that must be part of the work. It has to be.
Yes, it definitely is part of the work. And it depends on the client, how aggressive I am about it, or I should say. I'm one of 13 coaches on Quiet Minds LLC now. It really depends on the energy of the person. If they receive that kind of challenging well, amazing. It works. It's so great to gain that perspective and to actually look into a situation and see, oh yeah, that wasn't actually reality. That was something in my head. But for others, we do more of it's a gentler form of that. And we peel back the layers of the physical, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual. We get all the way down in there. And then once we get to the spiritual level, so I'll give you an example, or we'll use your example. Okay. Physical, just tell me what physically happened. And he says, the guy bumped me really hard in the shoulder, like ran into me.
That's the action.
That's it. That's just the physical action.
Right.
And already when people say just what happened, they're already like, oh snap.
They hear it.
Like someone ran into me. There's no therefore. There's nothing. It just hangs there.
Right.
Then we hang up the next piece. Intellectually, what thoughts were you thinking? Like the verbiage in your head that was rude, or I don't know. How would you frame that if this was a person?
So this is something I used to struggle with.
Okay.
Road rage was my thing. Somebody would cut me off and I would feel like they were testing me. They're like, I'm like this.
Oh, they are testing me. So that's what's going through your head.
You're right.
Okay. So the first part would be, this person cut me off.
Yep. That's the action. We call it the action. So call that the
physical level.
Physical level. This is so crazy.
Then the intellectual level, what were you thinking? Oh
man, they did it, and they know that I'm in a bad mood. They're testing me. They want me to chase them down. Like all these negative thoughts flutter my head.
Yes.
And I get enraged.
Yes.
Then it goes to what?
Then I mean, you hang that one up, and already some people start recognizing, okay, I don't even know this person. They don't actually know that I'm in a bad mood, and just keep going. And so then we go to the emotional level, and that's what you were saying. And then I get enraged. Maybe at first, you even being more progressive. At first, I was startled, maybe like, whoa,
right,
shocked. Maybe fear even comes up, right? And then it goes into those other ones. But really, initially, you weren't enraged at the onset. It was what's going on, that pause, that jump in your thinking, right?
Right.
And in the emotions, trigger something there, right? And so you can even start looking there. Like, okay, I was afraid. I really don't like feeling afraid. I really don't like feeling afraid. It really triggers me into reacting violently, physically, negatively. Okay. Now we're starting to get to know ourselves on a deeper level. Okay. Then we go into the spiritual. And this is where a lot of people, they struggle with, just so you know. It's okay if you struggle with the spiritual level. It's a place that we often don't really venture into because you don't really know where you're going.
Right.
Oftentimes. I mean, do you sit back and meditate for hours on end to get to know your inner spiritual life?
If it's not on Google Maps, I'm not going.
Exactly. And so we get to the spiritual level. And that's where it could be spiritual level. And for some people, I say just your value. What value was violated, or what spiritual need was obstructed? And so depending on the person, they might say my safety. They might say my dignity. They might say my space. And it's going to be different for everybody. So this is where we start getting a big spectrum of values. And from there, like, wow, my dignity is really important to me. My personal space is really important to me. Now we got the whole spectrum. We got the whole view of the physical, the intellectual, the emotional, and the spiritual all laid out for us, or values. And then we can just start getting to know ourselves. Wow, okay, I didn't know that about myself. And then that's when, after we kind of survey what we just went through, some people will want to really focus on the physical. Like, I can't believe that was such a simple, like, I didn't need to get upset. I didn't need to, go through this whole thing. That's okay. That's okay. It's just the process we went through. Then we'll go into, what do you need in this situation? I need my space. I need to go and I need to give myself space, or dignity. How can you give yourself dignity? And that's going to look different for everybody.
Right.
How can you give yourself that need that will give you the self-confidence and basically fill your cup with what you need? So that way, when this happens, it doesn't directly trigger. It doesn't need to hit that button, because you already feel safe.
Right.
You already feel dignified. Someone who feels safe doesn't need to knee jerk and attack everybody who violates their safety.
Do you ever do this with people on exercises that are not theoretical, where tell me something that happened to you yesterday that upset you, and kind of take
Those are
them?
the best.
Those are the best, right?
Those are the best.
Because then they can challenge it and almost create a scenario where they fought that, and create like a positive outcome and see the positive outcome.
Exactly.
So that you do those too then.
Yeah, we just peel it apart. Just peeling back the layers. Where have we been believing lies? Okay, let's adjust that. Let's speak some truth into that. Okay, what's the reality in this situation? I'm feeling really sad and I don't have any emotional outlets for this. So when this triggers me, that's exactly where I go. Okay, what's wrong with feeling sad? Where is that coming from? Maybe you were never allowed to have feelings. You weren't allowed to cry, because then you would get disciplined, or you would get isolated, ostracized, or something. So you just learned to just close it all off. It's everywhere.
And it's got to be such a fulfilling, because how rewarding it is, because you've clearly, I have to imagine, for you to become not just a life coach, but a spiritual life coach, there must be some journeys and walks that you've had to take yourself to realize it. And it's like, man, this is a gift that other people, they can have the same power. They might not necessarily want to make a career out of it,
right,
but just giving it to somebody, seeing how much better their life can be. From this can help with arguments in the families. This can help with losing your shit. And you watch a parent argue with their kid, they drop down to the level and they're battling over, they get all heated up. They're saying things they don't mean. Like, all of this can be kind of corrected through some stop thinking, some basic corrective behaviors.
Corrective everything. It's just I wouldn't even say corrective necessarily as an adjustment. It's all about balance.
We called it re-education, because we have education growing up through classes, through school, and then you got to go through a re-education process because we've all heard the term, like, sticks and stones will break my bones, but we've never stopped to analyze, like, what does that really mean?
Yeah.
When you say that, like, when you ask a kid, what does it mean, sticks and stones will break my bones? But we do live in a sensitive time now where people can become offended over words and feelings, hurting somebody's feelings. It's never nice to do that.
Right. But
ultimately, you shouldn't be able to say anything to me that hurts my feelings unless I give it power and I allow you to hurt my feelings.
Right.
And that's a tough one to swallow, especially for a lot of men.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of men really struggle with looking a certain way in front of people. I was tried. Somebody looked at my girl. I don't want to look like a punk. I got to go stand up and, be an alpha male and beat my chest. Do do you have is there a typical type of client you have, or like an age group, or does it range from like young, old, men, women, children?
Wow. It ranges, and it's particularly because of the diversity that we have with Quiet Minds LLC, that you can go on and pick the coach that resonates with you. And so there's somebody.
But how does somebody
there
know
for
what
everybody.
to pick? Like, is there a somebody comes into Quiet Minds LLC?
Yeah.
You've got 13
13
coaches to choose from.
Uh-huh.
You know, if I need a massage and I go to, you know, some high-end massage place, like, hey, what kind of massage are you looking for? I mean, I want to feel better. I don't necessarily know what's the screening process. I don't want to say screening because it sounds like you're qualifying somebody, but what's the screening process?
No, you are. And it's very important that is encouraged. Screening and filtering when you're looking for a coach is extremely important. And I feel like the industry has maybe not allowed for that very much, because if you don't like me as a coach, then you're being judgmental. You're, all like what you were saying about sensitivity in today's age. No. With life coaching, you need to be highly sensitive in listening to what your gut is telling you. This is somebody that I can connect with. Don't hire a coach or stay with a coach just because you feel obligated to at that point. Just
Right.
because you've met with them and you've spent 15 minutes, 30 minutes of their free session with them. And then the next day you're like, that really wasn't go forward. This is for you. This is for you. So all the coaches on Quiet Minds LLC offer a free 15-minute life coaching session. So just like with most websites with massage therapy and stuff, they put their picture on there.
Right.
Why?
I don't know.
Because there's the human connection that when we look into somebody's eyes, or even just seeing their face, we have a certain feeling about the person. And sure, it might be coming from our history and how we've dealt with people in the past. That person's to whatever.
What if you put like a picture of a chihuahua? Like
Well, are you picking out chihuahuas, or are we picking out coaches?
I mean, or what if the coach, like if I saw you and I'm like, all right, here's Miriam, here's Tony, the coach, and Miriam's holding a chihuahua in her picture. I might connect with that because I feel like animal people have a different level of empathy.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
So that's kind of what you mean. Like it could be the color of their shirt, yes, or the goofy bow tie they're wearing, yeah, to kind of show their personality.
Yeah. And that's just based on, that's without reading. That's without anything. That's just face value. That's someone that I can connect with. And sometimes that's all people need. So when you're on the website, there's a read more button and there's a book now button.
Right.
Because if that's all you need to know, yeah, I want this coach, book.
Right.
That's it. But for those of you who are more analytical, that want to read, where's this person coming from? What is their life experiences? Where did they train, etc.? There's a read more, and you get to read more about them.
And so in your opinion, what's more important? I mean, obviously the credentials have to be there in order, the world we live in, to have trust, but credentials versus like real life experiences. Do coaches, I doubt coaches are going to go talk about their own stuff because you're there to work on somebody else. But if I was a patient or a patient is a client, I guess I'm not a patient. Right? I'm a client. Okay. I probably,
you're not sick.
I probably need to be a patient of somewhere for sure. But let's say I was, I'm an interested client, potential client, I'm a prospect, and say, look, I really like what you got to say. And without going into any personal detail, have you been through your own trauma? Because I feel like if somebody's going to help me, that they have had to have gone through something traumatic in order to understand me. And that might not necessarily be true, but if it's what my initial belief is, right, that could base my hiring or not hiring, right?
Yeah.
So is that something you would answer? Someone said, have you been through anything? Would you say, oh, I'm not going to talk about that? Or I have been, but we're not going to go into details.
It depends on the coach, what they want to do.
You personally.
Oh, for me personally, yeah. If I would welcome those questions, and I would say yes or no, or I would say that I would say that life coaching is more about a balanced person, because a balanced person can be a mirror and can be the most reflective in your own journey and supportive of you. However, someone who has suffered the same thing as you can actually work against you, because since they've already had gone through that path, they might want to take you on that same path. And it
Right.
would, and that's a human thing to do. When you say something like, I don't know, like I get really upset when people run into me. I'm a person too.
Right.
And I can get triggered.
That triggers me too.
Right. And while the coaches are trained to address their own triggers and during and after, before sessions and everything, we're still human. And so that's going to impact the way that we're going to coach you.
So I have horrible allergies today, guys. If that's the case, then do you find it's almost like when I had a call center, there were certain call centers where they could be like the top writer at a call center.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, hey, I worked at so-and-so's. And I'm like, oh man, I know how they do things there. Yeah. And it's going to be harder for me to break your bad habits than it is to train you from I'd rather have a zero skill set come in and build a proper foundation that doesn't already have a certain mindset of how it should happen.
Mm-hmm.
Is that along those lines?
Yeah, it can't. Yes. So I wouldn't get stuck in that mindset in saying that if someone hasn't been through what I've been through, they're not going to be able to help me.
Right.
Not the case. Not always the case, I should say.
But just general trauma,
yeah.
maybe like they maybe it's completely different.
Yeah.
They were molested. This person didn't get enough hugs. They just want to know that there's some level of you're able to help me because you have an understanding that you didn't just read out of a book. You've walked some sort of a life that you're passing on now. It's more like, passing down wisdom in different learnings. So Quiet Minds LLC, this is your company. You started this when?
A year ago in March. And
you've got, let's pull up Quiet Minds LLC, Tony the Tiger. DJ Tony. He works much better with this mouse from No, I don't. Tony's mouse pad is a pizza box from the pizza restaurant today.
I can't show. Yeah. I'm looking for the dang mouse.
I see it.
Yep.
There you go. So here we are, Quiet Minds LLC, and we're going to pull up the internet screen, Tony. So, oh no, we can't do that, can we?
No.
Oh, I forgot about that. Never mind. So take me a little bit. You started this company. How long ago? You said a year?
A year ago.
A year ago.
In March. So a little over a year now.
How many coaches did you have when you started?
12.
How did you start with so many coaches? Tell me a little bit about this. I'm still like.
Surprisingly, I put a post up and I was interviewing coaches for like 2 months straight.
Okay.
And the vetting process, and also speaking to your previous question, like how do I know who and what coach to go with and that kind of thing? Be confident that I've interviewed and vetted these coaches.
Go to her. Keep talking.
To have a certain finesse with their skill set and the tools that they're going to be using. I got to see them coaching. I read a lot of their recommendations, but really what I wanted to see was their finesse and their grace with using the tools with skill, not just knowing it, not just following a checklist, and not just working well with certain people. These people were flexible and able to work with many different clients who were not even the same as them, like ethnicity, religion, or any of those things. They were so well equipped and experienced in just coaching from that mirror, just being a mirror and holding the space of safety for their clients. That's what I was looking for. And
these coaches they're all over the place, right?
They're all over the world.
That is wild. Let's go back to Meet the Coaches, Tony, the third tab. I think we have her up on the screen now, right? Beautiful. So these are the 13 different coaches. Now, are they work under you? Are they independent of their own also? Like, for example, not to get into the financial side, but let's say Dan Wise becomes a coach. working with you and I bring on a client, is there a split? Is there like just a piece goes to you for
Yes.
kind of maintaining all of the?
Yep.
That's really cool. How'd you come up with this idea?
It was part of my own healing journey, actually.
Okay.
It was
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Yeah, actually that's what this month is my feature. So I'm in charge of doing all the social media and creating all the content for Quiet Minds. And I'm taking everybody on like how I created Quiet Minds LLC. Where did this come from? And when I was training as a coach, everybody was, going off and starting their own practice and doing all these things. And I wanted to do the same thing. But every time that I set my hand to doing something, to filling out the business license application, to coming up with the name, the logo, whatever it was, this voice kept on popping up into my head that you're not like your teacher. You're not good enough. You have zero experience. This and this.
Your
and
beliefs.
My beliefs, all those things were just popping up. And it was just so discouraging. I was like, man, that's true. I can't possibly do this. I can't do this. I'm not qualified. I'm not.
Who's going to trust me?
Who's going to trust me? I mean, what? Yeah, all the above.
Right.
Just total insecurities in
rejection and all of these things.
Yeah, fear of rejection. And when I sat down with my teacher, she coached me on this. And you can actually watch it. Rivka Malka, Google it. And she has a School of Healing and Transformation. And I'm not sure if you can see it on her YouTube page. But anyways.
What's her name? Just so I reference it later.
Rivka Malka.
Spell that for me,
RIVKA Malka. MALKA. And last name Perlman. I don't know if that will help. Perlman. PER.
PEAR or PER?
PERLMAN.
Got it.
And she's simply offered during the session, I was telling her about this. She simply offered a perspective. And she said, what if this isn't a career? This isn't like some career endeavor, or business endeavor. What if this was your healing? What if this was part of your healing? And so all these voices suddenly were put into a whole new category. No longer were they trying to bring me down as like a saboteur would, to try and sabotage everything. But they were pointing out just basic facts. It was just, I am not my teacher. I could accept that now.
Right.
So great. Who am I? I'm Miriam Camero. The next one, you have zero experience. That's absolutely true. So I should better start today so that way I can get experience. You can't help everybody. The fear of rejection, that whole thing. That's so true. I'm going to build a team of amazing coaches.
So you have a flavor for everybody now.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
That's really where Quiet Minds LLC started.
Wow. And how active are some people more active than others?
Well, some yes and no, but that's kind of the beauty of having a team.
Right.
Is that just because I take a vacation, I just need some R&R, that Quiet Minds LLC is just going to poof and go away.
Right.
Right. We have coaches who are going to be available and they have their schedules and they make their own adjustments and everything.
Do you guys get together like Zoom meetings and stuff and have virtual pizza parties?
Yes, we try to, but because of time zones,
right,
it's pretty difficult. So we mostly get together with like emails and chats and things like that.
Out of, I'm sure everybody has their own interesting character too.
Yes.
But out of here, like who's somebody that's like an interesting character, like somebody.
Oh my goodness, that's
like in a good way, like somebody that's like, man, like they've got a very niche market for themselves because of their personality is so just forefront. Who are we gonna give a shout out to? I would have to. That lady, see the lady in the very bottom left. That's somebody visually that I would cater to her.
Well, like, yeah, I mean, that's they're all.
That goes back to what you were saying earlier, like buy a picture.
Yes. It is. Like I said, I vetted these coaches. I interviewed them, and all of them have something that were that. They were a character. They brought themselves to it, and they just their own flavor. It's just amazing. Okay, so so you pointed out Dr. Ferdina Weems,
That's the bottom left.
bottom left.
All the way down. There you go. Move that sleep microphone thing out of the way, Tony. Grab it and drag it.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It's the one that's covering her picture.
Yeah,
Never mind.
she is powerful. Her energy is so contagious, and she's motivated, and she has this way of
Her confidence
radiates. It
off
radiates.
of her.
Exactly.
It does.
Exactly. So if that's what you're needing and that's what you want, Dr. Ferdina Williams is all about that, and she's amazing at that.
You know, with where I am in my own journey, like one of the things that I don't deal with well is when I feel like somebody is slightly eggshelling. If I ask them a question or I ask for an opinion where it's almost like their opinion is going to be based on what they think I want to hear. It's like, oh God, not to say any of your coaches do that, but people in general, you know, that's why it's fun hanging out with you, because you just kind of like say what you're thinking. It's not that you don't have a filter. You're not worried about saying something that is going to be offensive because you're answering a question.
Yeah.
And if I take offense to that, you can't really control that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that's a unique quality for people in general to have. Do you feel a lot of your clients that you work with, the benefits they take away are, you know, as a prison consultant, we have guys going to prison and they're so worried about their wives because their wives have never written a check before. And I try to tell them, I'm like, look, you got to let go of control. You're going to be in prison. And if you think one 15-minute call a week, you're going to be able to like run your household, she's going to have to figure shit out.
Yeah.
And almost every time by the end, when the husband comes home, most relationships do stay together, but the spouse, it's not always a female. Sometimes it's the man.
Yeah.
But the opposite person that's out, that never really took care of this stuff, man, they found strength they didn't know they had. Because human beings, we're relentless. When you're put to a test, we're so surprised at what we're actually capable of doing.
Yes.
Survival.
Yeah. Resilience, perseverance.
It's in us.
It's in us.
And all you're doing is helping people kind of spiritually navigate through the waters, but they're the one actually doing the navigating.
Yeah.
You're posing a question, and like you said, they'll ask themselves the question and say, I got mad because, oh man, you just got me, you know. And that must be such an aha moment when that happens.
Yeah, that's exactly what the posts are this week, is developing self-awareness. And so every day there's been an assignment working on this list, and at the very end we restructure the list to post it exactly how you put it. I got mad because this happened, and then they're like, okay, all right.
And that moment has got to be so like where they're almost so aware.
Right there.
Oh, what are we looking at?
So self-awareness day 1. What are you thinking?
Are these pictures or videos?
They're just pictures.
Go ahead and click on them, Tony. We can click on pictures.
Okay. And self-awareness day 2 and self-awareness day 3.
So Tony likes to just jump to day 3, but self-awareness day 3, turn on the light. Let's go to day 1. Hit the back button.
Day 1, you're going to need day 1 in order to look at day 3 with good clarity.
Go all the way to the left, Tony.
Oh, that's good. Just one more to the right, actually. Sorry, I'm now driving your podcast.
Hey, look, you seem like you're somewhat of a driver. So here we go. Self-awareness day 1. What are you thinking?
What are you thinking? Yeah. So a lot of us, we have really busy minds. So I just encourage us, as long as your mind is throwing things at you, just write. And eventually it does slow down, in fact. But if you don't have the time, just write. And so here, just writing down the thoughts. No filters, no thinking, worrying about if I'm going to hurt the paper's feelings. It really doesn't care. Just write. And then reading the list. Also with the same, these are just your thoughts. These are just things that are going through your mind. You have not acted on these things or anything like that. Just thoughts. Okay? In the hypothetical realm. It's okay. Non-judgmental. There's no good or bad thoughts. There's nothing like that. Just read it. Okay, it's just what is. Then we fold up the piece of paper and we move and we wait for the next day.
Day 2.
And just letting that be. We don't need to do any work on that.
On day
Oop.
2.
So day
Oop,
2,
Tony loves day 3.
he loves day 3. We'll get there.
we'll
will
get
get
there,
there.
Tony.
right.
It's about the journey.
It is. Then we take out the same piece of paper, and next to each one, we write down, how does that thought make us feel? Still, same thing, no judgment. Not saying this makes me feel, this is a bad thought, therefore I feel. No.
When they did day 1, they didn't know what day 2 was going to be,
Right.
right? Okay.
So it was like, yeah.
And that's got to be,
helpful.
so let's talk about that just for a second. That waiting period,
Mhm.
that's a test in itself, because human beings, I want to know now.
Yeah.
I want to know now. Waiting is part of the process of learning patience, right?
Yeah.
So you've got, there's like a whole theory behind this. This isn't just a cute little poster of day 1, day 2. This is
Yeah.
literally like,
This is real work. This is,
and they don't know it's real work sometimes
Right.
until, okay, this is fun.
yeah.
So day 2,
Writing
awareness.
down a feeling next to each thought. Okay, you read the thought, wow, that makes me feel stressed. So, for example, I never have time for myself. I feel stressed.
Oh, you've got examples over here.
Mhm. I should have said something, and now that makes me frustrated. The meeting went well. I felt proud. This is, there's no good or bad, they're positive, negative, or
Right.
these things. This is just feelings, just thoughts. And then we fold up the piece of paper, put it in away, and we go on to day 3.
Go for it, Tony. We know you can't wait. Like now he doesn't go to day 3.
No, it won't go to day 3.
It won't.
All right, did it freeze for real?
So day 3 is exactly what I had said.
You can just click on the iPad, and it should bring the mouse right over there. Now you can use the day 3.
Oh, that's day 1.
There we
Day
go.
three.
Boom.
So take us through day 3.
Day 3, this is now turning on the light, taking out your paper again. For every feeling, create the sentence by beginning with the feeling, then because, and finish it with the thought. For example, I felt stressed because I can't get anything done. I felt embarrassed because I should have known better. And then now we can take out our judgmental mind that has been waiting so eagerly to judge and totally rip us apart. Okay. But now now it's in a safe space. Now, it's in a safe arena. I felt stressed because I can't get anything done. Okay. Is it my job to do everything? Can I get everything done? Am I a perfect person? No. Shedding the light on there. Okay, this is revealing some thoughts and some things that I believe that I know aren't true or aren't supportive. Now I know. Now we can go down to filling in a need.
Where are you pointing at?
Down here. For example, I need help because I can't do everything by myself. We're human. I really can't do everything by myself.
I heard that one of the biggest roadblocks human beings have is one of the statements we tell ourselves is, I don't need anybody else's help to solve my own problems.
Yeah. He's raising his hand.
Good. Tony, yes.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
Tony.
I'm answering you.
Tony's
I'm
raising
one
his
of
hand.
those.
So you said earlier when we talked about the different religions and the different gurus,
Yeah.
but the very, very common message that's just put into a understanding that caters to, some people go to religion, some people go to Tony Robbins. But the message ends up being very, very similar. 'Cause
Very
all the stuff
similar,
that we're going
yes.
through right here is all the same steps I had to go through in prison, and it's a much more intense version of it
Yeah.
there because it's 10 months, like day in for 8 hours day. And
Ooh.
it was I'll tell you, the 10 months of the RDAP program, the residential drug addiction program, I thought I was going to scam my way through this program. I thought I was going to go there, tell them what they wanted to hear, tap dance my way through it.
Mhm.
I honestly envisioned it being something similar to like what an AA thing might be, or you get a ticket, you go to driving school and you fall asleep, you pass a 30-minute test and you get some points dropped.
Yeah.
It really had nothing to do about drugs and alcohol. It was all about cognitive thinking, focusing on consequences, your choices, your belief system. And it broke me so hard that when I graduated RDAP, the fulfilling feeling of that was better than the day I got released from prison. It was like this, like, oh my God, this weight was lifted.
Yeah.
And I remember my family would say things because they would see me going through this process of change.
Yeah.
And it took time.
It takes
And I remember my girlfriend said to me, she's like, whatever fucking Kool-Aid they're making, I hope you take this recipe home, because there's doubt. People are like, you're in prison, you're saying all these things, but are you actually gonna create the pattern that's now the maintenance phase? Because you go through all of this, but if you don't maintain and practice this stuff,
Yeah.
it kind of falls to the wayside.
Yep.
And old habits kind of poke
Come
their
back
head
up.
back up, right?
Yep.
And then
Yep.
you go, oh, it's all bullshit, it's all hokey stuff, none of it works. Tony Robbins firewalks, they only work if you follow up with the steps after and you maintain the level of practice. So how long is your typical time realm with a client, from like when they hire you to where they kind of like go off on their own?
It's just whatever the person is really ready for. We definitely don't try and make you dependent upon us to make another dime.
Right.
Don't believe in that whatsoever. It's all about what you're ready for. And if you're ready, if you feel you're ready to go off on your own, we'll prepare you for that leading up to that point. Right.
But is there like a typical,
no.
like, right? No.
Yeah. Some, okay. I had one client who he met with me for one session, the free 15-minute session. Hadn't been able to hold down jobs. He's been paralyzed from even applying to any more jobs. And this had been going on for years. Hadn't had a job, or would get one and then leave or whatever. Okay. He had all these things. So much had gone on in his life, losing family members, being a caretaker for family members. I mean, really rough for the last few years. One session, 15 minutes. The next week he got a job, and not just a job. He got his dream job.
Wow.
Everything that he'd said that he wanted in a job, he got the next week. And he sends me a message. I got a job. It's this. It's exactly what I've been looking for. And he came back, he booked in the next session, just like a paid session, just for a courtesy.
It's like a thank you.
He's just like, I just really felt bad that like doors just started flying open. And
it's like you're a human organizer, because clearly this guy that did this, clearly he had all of the tools.
Yeah.
You just
qualified.
kind of applied him like this is when you use a hammer and this is when you use a wrench. And if you use them at the right moments, like, you're going to have a well-working machine. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, he was paralyzed. He hadn't applied for any jobs and didn't even have the self-confidence to do that, to take that step. So it was like, in this 15 minutes, we worked on, I'm trying to think about the session now, because it was so powerful in just some of the simple truths that he was getting to so quickly, and connecting. And then boom, he was off. Others, I've had clients who have been with me since the very beginning, since I've opened Quiet Minds LLC, and they still want more. You know, for him, that was satisfactory and that was enough. He's like, this is enough. This is what I wanted. Yes. And I am so happy for him. And it's just amazing. Others, they get the yes, and then they come back. I want more. I want to go deeper. I want to, keep going. I want to keep, unpacking this. And it's life.
Do you have like workbooks and stuff that you work with your clients where it's
I don't.
Okay.
One of my coaches does. That's Chinwe. And that's a particular flavor that she brings out. She really likes working with like that kind of organization. Chinwe, she's down a little bit. She's in Nigeria.
Remember, if you tap the iPad, Tony, it brings the mouse over.
She has a very particular passion.
Chinwe, there she is.
Yeah, for helping people get unstuck from any kind of situation. She's written a book, and whenever you book a session or you buy a package with her, she'll send you her book and her workbook to go through. And sometimes you'll go through it exactly the way it's written, and sometimes she'll just totally deviate and make your own program. Yep. But it's really based on you.
Now, is there times where you'll have somebody that's interested, but after talking to them, you're like, you know what, you're more suitable for like a therapist. Like what you need is more like might need medication, where you almost don't feel comfortable because of the state of mind that they're in. Like you don't want to accidentally cause damage.
Mhm.
Is there a balance there that you have to be able to decipher, like this person just needs some spiritual guidance and this person might need some medicine that I'm not capable of helping?
Absolutely. But at the same time, we haven't encountered that yet we're preparing for that. So we are actually in the midst of creating a network of therapists, counselors, psychologists, psychiatrists.
Good.
That we can all connect with and we all trust.
Right.
That we can refer clients to if they feel like they're ready for that step. So far, we have sponsors who sponsor people to get coaching. And so people like homeless people who are addicted to drugs and like different things.
Oh, so you have people that will actually pay for somebody else to get the services
Yes.
that they can't afford.
Yes.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yes.
You get one of these for that.
Oh man, it's great. And then also the shop. If you want, you can. So there's a donate and there's shop.
Go to the shop, Tony. Tony's on tequila time. Tequila.
Everything in this shop, all of the profits go towards sponsoring sessions. All of them. And they're all geared towards.
Are those like essential? Oh, those are essential oils.
This is our amazing self-care store.
Okay.
That anything self-care you will find here. Even things that you didn't think were self-care, you're going to find here, and they're going to benefit you in some way.
Writing, is it okay, good? I picture like awesome coloring books right now. Let me see what we come up with there.
Writing, journaling.
You know, writing is so therapeutic because I'm not a writer. I'm not a writer and I'm not a reader. But in prison, I wrote a letter every single day that I was in prison. And in order to save money on stamps, I would mail them home every Sunday. I'd put a group of letters together and mail them home. But there were some days where I was like, oh, who am I going to write today? So I would write letters, Dear Future Dan. And I go back and I read these letters now, and it's like, fuck. I think I'm having a bad day right now. And it's like, Dear Dan, you're sitting in a cell right now, dreaming about eating like a slice of pizza. You're going to be in the free world in a couple of years, and you're going to be complaining about this or that. But
I love that.
And it's like,
yes,
fuck.
Yes.
It makes me almost like, oh, dude, you're getting all upset about things that really
there's some pizza for you right there.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, you know, and I wrote these letters because I would see all these guys as they're getting released and they're throwing all their stuff away. They're like throwing because they're like, oh, I don't want to remember this place. And I don't want to bring everything home with me, but there were some things where I was like, dude, there's going to be moments where the real world is going to be in place and I'm going to forget how important that, like how bad this sucks to be here right now.
Yeah.
So keeping some of those memories.
So valuable.
Yeah.
And it even works.
Real men cry.
Love you, Dan. Love you, Dan. That's right. Exactly.
How come, Tony, I cry in every video. How come I don't have tissues on the table yet?
You've cried in every video?
Yeah.
Lately,
Even
a lot
juicing.
of, somehow a lot of,
Even juicing?
Yeah.
It's-
Even juicing.
there was tequila involved in that one.
Yeah, that's why.
All right. Well, I'm gonna blow my nose. You continue to tell us.
Stay.
Okay.
Oh, Tony's.
I'll continue to answer your question.
Okay, go ahead.
Because I didn't answer your question. So since we've been able to work with such a diverse clientele, there are times when some people with mental issues, with those needs, they don't even have a safe space to even process that need. And that's what we can do. That coming to a life coach, wow, you know, it's maybe it isn't a terrible thing to go and see somebody for help. Maybe I am not a failure if I need a counselor.
Right.
Maybe my marriage won't completely fall apart because I need a therapist or I need a marriage counselor, or, you know, we need those kinds of things.
Well, when you said safe space earlier, because obviously you work with people, you create a safe space for them to not be put in their box during these moments.
Yeah.
But does safe space for them get redefined later on? Where, because now I'm working on where I try to create every area as a safe space, because what's the worst that's going to happen if I become vulnerable and cry on camera? What's the worst that's going to happen? People might go, oh, he's a sissy, but should I care? And if I stop caring about that, does that now make this new space for me? Like, does my safe space grow?
Safe spaces are more like, I would say, maybe more like a suit of armor and a weapon. Okay. Because you
but what's the armor for, though?
Boundaries. And then the weapon is more like in the way that you're going to be using it. Okay.
But what if you don't have a weapon that can hurt me?
Well, that's the thing. Okay, so maybe that's not the right metaphor. Let me think of a better metaphor. Okay. Or maybe even a room. Okay. A safe space for my kids right now is one that has outlets covered, no cords, fragile things. Right. This is a space that they can just be them, and that's great. But I have taken additional caution. I've put in more boundaries around things that you, Dan, might not need. Tony, I still probably would put away the cords. But we're talking about safe spaces.
Boy, did she time that one? Oh my goodness.
She's been holding that.
Wow.
She's been waiting.
She nailed that. Tony fell pretty hard today. And that was, hey, you get another one.
Poor Tony.
Poor Tony.
Oh, this stopped recording.
Oh, he's lying.
Yeah, I know.
It happened last video. But he got me. Did he fool you just now a little bit? All right.
No.
So continue.
So that safe space is going to look different, and yet I am still creating that space. Does that make sense? When I go to in my vehicle, I'm going to create a safe space by making sure the mirrors are at my level, making all the appropriate physical adjustments to make sure that I'm able to operate my vehicle safely. That's me creating those spaces. Right now, for a podcast, I'm not going to be talking about very, very personal things that are going to make everybody cry or get people angry.
You clearly failed.
Or that I missed that safety, but but it's like knowing how to approach a situation and creating the whole safe space for yourself and for others. It's not really that your safe spaces are changing. You're learning how to use them, and you take that with you wherever you go.
That makes sense. That's actually a better way for my mind to understand it better, because I looked at a safe space as prior where and what I was comfortable talking about, and usually my fear of would be how I was going to feel other people were going to hear me or perceive me or view me after the fact. And I work really hard now to do things that are intentionally uncomfortable, because it usually after the fact, I feel this overwhelming, like people actually relate. More people relate to it than not.
Yeah.
And it gives other people, sometimes strength to, hey, if he can make a goof out of himself just by being normal. That's another thing that's really amazing about when I get to work with one person. It's not just I'm working with one person. That person's going to go out and be able to recognize themselves, maybe in others, and be able to say, man, maybe smile to themselves instead of getting angry like they used to. Like, oh, I used to do that. Hey, pal, nah, not here. Right.
Or whatever, instead of like going over and beating the person up. In general, it's just creating a light, spreading light and goodness, and just creating more safe spaces and just a better world just by working with one person.
That's really cool that you get to experience that with so many different people. And do you find there's like a lot of common? When's the last time that like there was like a really surprising outcome? Like, man, this person got it at a whole different level than people have ever got it before. Or is it become like it becomes like the same old?
No. People surprise me all the time. I'm always learning, either in books or from my clients. I have not had repeats.
Well, I think what you're doing is, and as you can see, this is something I have a little bit of an interest in just from my own experience. So it's refreshing to have somebody, this is the second time we've had somebody on with a similar topic where it was an engaging conversation, because what you're doing is very in the wrong hands. The service you offer is fucking dangerous for somebody that doesn't really have an interest to help.
Yeah.
Because snake oil salesmen exist, manipulation and leading people on just for the longevity of draining a pocketbook.
Yeah.
So I don't get that vibe from you. So, that's cool to see that. What's the best way for people to reach out to you, either for support, following you, that want your help? How would you want? Is it Facebook? Is it Instagram? What's the most?
All of the above. We check it regularly, and we receive it just as well.
And you're going to be speaking. When again is it?
Oh, at Unity Spiritual Life Center.
Is that here in Yakima?
It's here in Yakima.
And is it people need? How could people, if people want to come see this? Is it like open forum?
Yes. Yeah. Their services start at 10:30, and so that's when I'll be.
You'll be on at 10:30.
I think they have. It's like a whole like
panel
service kind of a thing.
Okay.
So I think I'll be on like at 10:45, something like that. But people should be there by 10:30.
And how long is are you going to give a speech?
Yeah.
How long is a speech?
It's be like 20, 30 minutes.
Nice.
And it just depends on.
Are you nervous?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I get nervous, and it's a good thing because I
is.
want to do my best.
Right.
If I wasn't nervous, I would assume.
How many
This is just for
times?
me.
How many
This is
times
for
have you
me.
stared in the mirror and gave your speech?
No, I stare at others.
Other people.
I do it in front of my family and stuff. My 1-year-old.
It's so crazy how this is so relatable to like the whole prison thing, the whole prison process. We have clients that when they're getting ready to go, they've got to write these letters to like the judge, right? Or they've got to give these allocutions, which is your statement to the judge. And people that have this mindset that they're going to go in there and they're going to give this Grammy award-winning speech. And I'm trying to tell them, you're going into an environment, into this awe-shocking federal courthouse where a judge is going to be, handing down a sentence to you. If you think you're going to go in there with this perfect speech, you're sadly mistaken. Unless when I say prepare, so we have clients go do open mic night and give their allocution in an open audience. And man, it's great to see. They'll call them, "Oh, Dan, I need help. I'm not ready. Like
No.
I forgot what I was saying. I started crying. I'm sniffling. Like, oh my, I'm like, it's okay. Walk up with a piece of paper, read your speech." So preparing for a speech is a big deal.
It is.
It really is.
It is. Yeah.
Isn't it good though? The butterflies is fun.
Oh,
right?
yeah. And it lets me know that I'm still a person and that I don't know everything. And as soon as I feel like that I don't know everything, I know I'm in trouble.
I want to come record you do this.
You can.
Tony, we should. What day is it? What's it like? Day of the week is it?
I think it's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday.
Tony, I got you covered. So Miriam, let's take her over to our website. Let's take her to her website real quick. Tony.
Yep, I got it.
He's got it now. He's got it.
All right. So we got, let's go to the homepage. Actually, let's go to, you have a contact somewhere on here, right?
Yes. At the very bottom, there's a contact us. Scroll up. There.
Right
Contact
there.
us.
So if you go to her, okay. So book now, is that the contact or is there a link?
Sorry. What's your
It's down
question?
at the bottom.
So there's a contact us, and that's just,
Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what's the email? You
that
have
will
an
go.
email?
That will go to.
Oh, that goes to the
yeah,
email. Okay.
yeah.
Gotcha. And then on Instagram, seems like you have what would appear to be just like cute little pictures, but actually, as she just took us through step 1, step 2, step 3, you actually see there's actually a method to this madness, and it's not just cute and cuddly. It's actually very serving to somebody's state of mind.
Yeah.
So follow her on Instagram, guys, under Quiet Minds 121. Is that correct?
121.
Oh, 121.
121.
121.
1 to 1.
What's
You
oh
say I
1
need-
2 1?
Ah.
Oh, I see what you did right there. So I thank you so much for coming out and hanging out with us today. I know you're going to come back because you also have to come back for Trivia Tuesday because you're
Right.
the reigning champ right now.
Trivia Tuesday.
Is there anything you want to let people know that we didn't cover? Anything you want to mention?
If you're hesitant about booking a session, just do it.
Free
Just like-
free 15 minutes,
free
right?
15 minutes is free 15 minutes. And just like what Dan was saying, if it makes you feel uncomfortable, it's probably a good thing.
There you go.
Do something out of your comfort zone. Book a session with any of the coaches.
I love
They're
it.
all amazing. Just pick one, and you could even close your eyes and just pick.
Round
It's
robin.
okay. It's free 15 minutes, and they are going to love working with you no matter what. Even if you tell them, I don't resonate with you at all, they're going to be like, yes, you're one step closer to finding your coach.
Making decisions is a big part of it, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, we'll be back next Thursday and Friday with
Somebody else.
with somebody else. No, actually, next Friday we have is it Yakima? What's the group that does the events?
Downtown Association, I think.
Downtown Yakima.
Yeah.
Downtown Yakima is going to be in next week, and we're interviewing a doctor tomorrow. She actually sent me a text. I want to get a panel of people that we've had some cool. I would love for you and I. Her name is going to escape me right now, so I don't want to butcher it. But the other young lady that came on, that's in a similar industry, but
yes.
she's more of like the business side of it.
Yes.
But it's kind of the same, just a different, like, you know.
Like I said, yes, there's going to be
Different
people
angle.
who really want to do business life coaching. That's going to serve them
Right.
much better than the faith and spiritual life coaching.
But there's a lot of crossing over,
And there's a lot
similarity.
of crossing over and similarity in the
I'd love
way
to get
we
the two of
do
you
it.
down across from each other table just to have like an organic conversation.
It's fun. I love
Round
talking
one,
to fellow
fight.
coaches.
One-on-one. All right. Well, Miriam, thank you so much for coming out. It's always a
Thanks for
pleasure.
having me.
She's got such little hands, guys.
That too.
Little hands, giant heart. Love it. Peace, everybody.